Welcome to EngloStories. Today we have a thrilling and mysterious tale that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Bluebeard is a famous fairy tale written by Charles Perrault, a French author who published it in his collection Tales of Mother Goose in 1697. This story has captivated readers for over 3 centuries with its blend of romance, mystery, and danger. Our tale follows a wealthy nobleman with a strikingly blue beard who has been married many times, but mysteriously, none of his wives are ever seen again. When he marries a beautiful young woman from a neighboring family, she discovers there is one room in his grand mansion that she is forbidden to enter. What secret lies behind that locked door, and what happened to all his previous wives? Join us as we uncover the dark mystery in the chilling tale of Bluebeard. Now, let's begin the story. Once upon a time in the French countryside, there lived a wealthy nobleman who owned beautiful homes, fine silver and gold dishes, comfortable furniture, and splendid carriages. Despite his wealth, this man had one strange feature that made him rather unattractive: a beard of striking blue color. This unusual characteristic, along with his mysterious past, caused many people to fear and avoid him. They called him Bluebeard. Near Bluebeard's grand estate lived a lady of quality with 2 extraordinarily beautiful daughters. Bluebeard, wanting a new wife, asked to marry one of these daughters. Neither girl was eager to marry him, not only because of his blue beard, but also because he had already married several wives, and no one knew what had become of them. They simply disappeared. To impress the family, Bluebeard invited the mother, her daughters, and some friends from the neighborhood to one of his country houses. For 8 full days, they enjoyed feasts, hunting parties, fishing trips, dancing, and magnificent dinners. They stayed up all night having fun and playing games. Everything went so wonderfully that the younger daughter began to think that perhaps the master's beard wasn't so blue after all. She started to see him as a fine gentleman. Shortly after returning home, the younger daughter agreed to marry Bluebeard. The wedding celebration lasted for 3 weeks, with parties, feasts, and entertainment that made everyone forget their initial concerns about the mysterious man with the blue beard. After a month of marriage, Bluebeard told his wife that he needed to travel to a distant province on important business. The journey would take at least 6 weeks. He encouraged his wife to enjoy herself while he was away by inviting her friends to stay, taking them to the countryside for entertainment, and indulging in all the delicious food his house had to offer. "Here," said Bluebeard, handing her a large ring of keys. "These are the keys to my 2 great storerooms, where I keep my gold and silver. These unlock the chests containing my precious jewels, and this is the master key to all the rooms in the house. As for this little key," he continued, holding up a small ornate key, "it opens the small room at the end of the long gallery on the ground floor. You may open any door in the house, look at anything you wish, and go anywhere you like, except for this little room. I forbid you to enter it. If you disobey and open that door, there is nothing you can expect from me but my most terrible anger." The young wife promised to follow these instructions exactly. After kissing his wife goodbye, Bluebeard climbed into his carriage and departed on his journey. Soon after, the wife's friends and neighbors came to visit, eager to see all the treasures of the house. They had never dared to come while Bluebeard was home because of his frightening blue beard. The young woman was so excited to show off her husband's wealth that she forgot all about the forbidden room. She proudly displayed the beautiful tapestries, comfortable beds, exquisite furniture, and cabinets filled with treasures. However, the thought of the forbidden room began to consume her mind. What could be inside that her husband kept so secret? Why couldn't she enter? The more she thought about it, the stronger her curiosity grew until she could think of nothing else. One day, unable to resist any longer, she left her guests and hurried down to the forbidden room. Standing before the door, her hand trembled as she put the little key into the lock. After a moment's hesitation, she turned the key and opened the door. At first, she could see nothing because the windows were closed. After a few moments, she began to realize that the floor was covered with dried blood. Reflected in the blood were the bodies of several women hanging from the walls, Bluebeard's previous wives whom he had murdered. Terrified by this horrible sight, the poor young woman dropped the key, which fell into a pool of blood. With shaking hands, she picked it up, locked the door, and ran to her room to recover from the shock. As the young wife examined the key, she noticed with horror that it was stained with blood. She tried desperately to clean it, washing it with soap and sand, but nothing would remove the blood stain. The key was magical. Once stained with blood, it could never be cleaned. When one side was cleaned, the blood would appear on the other side. That very evening, Bluebeard returned home unexpectedly. He had received letters on his journey saying that his business was settled much sooner than anticipated. His wife, still shaken by her discovery, tried to appear happy at his return while hiding her terrible fear. The next morning, Bluebeard asked for his keys back. With a trembling hand, she gave them to him. Looking carefully at each key, he asked, "Why is there blood on the little key?" "I don't know," she replied, her face turning pale. "You don't know?" Bluebeard said with a voice that made the whole house tremble. "But I know very well. You wanted to enter the forbidden room." "Well, madam, now you shall go in and take your place among the ladies you saw there." The terrified wife threw herself at her husband's feet, weeping and begging his forgiveness with every sign of true regret for her disobedience. Her beauty and distress would have softened a heart of stone, but Bluebeard's heart was harder than any rock. "You must die, madam," he said coldly, "and right now." "Since I must die," she answered, looking at him with eyes wet with tears, "give me a little time to say my prayers." "I give you 1/4 of an hour," replied Bluebeard, "but not a moment more." When she was alone, she called her sister Anne and said, "Sister Anne, please go up to the tower and see if my brothers are coming. They promised to visit me today. If you see them, signal them to hurry." Sister Anne climbed to the tower, and the frightened wife called up every few minutes, "Anne, Sister Anne, do you see anyone coming?" And Sister Anne would reply, "I see nothing but the sun shining and the green grass growing." Meanwhile, Bluebeard stood waiting with a great sword in his hand. After the quarter hour had passed, he shouted with a terrible voice, "Come down now, or I'll come up." "Just one moment more," his wife called back, and then asked her sister again, "Anne, Sister Anne, do you see anyone coming?" "I see a cloud of dust moving this way," replied Sister Anne. "Is it my brothers?" asked the wife. "Alas, no, sister. It is only a flock of sheep." "Will you come down, madam?" shouted Bluebeard. "One moment more," replied his wife. Then again, "Anne, Sister Anne, do you see nobody coming?" "I see," said Sister Ann. "Two horsemen coming this way, but they are still far off." "Thank God!" exclaimed the wife with joy. "They are my brothers. I am signaling them as hard as I can to hurry." Bluebeard began to shout so loudly that the whole house shook. The poor wife descended and threw herself at his feet, her hair disheveled and her face streaming with tears. "This means nothing," said Bluebeard. "You must die." Then, seizing her by the hair with one hand and raising his sword with the other, he prepared to cut off her head. At that very moment, there came such a loud knocking at the gate that Bluebeard stopped. The gate was opened, and two horsemen rushed in with swords drawn. They were the wife's brothers, one a dragoon and the other a musketeer. Seeing what was happening, they charged at Bluebeard. He tried to escape, but the brothers caught him before he could reach the stairs. They ran their swords through his body and left him dead. The poor wife was almost as dead as her husband from fear and could hardly stand up to embrace her brothers. It was discovered that Bluebeard had no heirs, so his wife became the owner of all his property. She used part of the wealth to arrange marriages for her sister Anne to a young gentleman who had loved her for many years. Another portion went to her brothers to help them advance in their military careers. Finally, she herself married a worthy man who helped her forget the terrible days she had spent with Bluebeard. The grand house was transformed from a place of terror to a home filled with joy and laughter. The forbidden room was sealed up forever, and in time, the story of the man with the blue beard became just a distant memory in the minds of those who had once feared him. The story of Bluebeard teaches us several important lessons. First, it shows the dangers of excessive curiosity. Sometimes rules exist for our protection, even if we don't understand them at first. Second, it reminds us of the importance of keeping promises. The wife's broken promise led to great danger. However, the tale also demonstrates that even when we make mistakes, courage and family bonds can help us overcome difficult situations. The sister's watchfulness and the brother's bravery saved the day. Finally, the story illustrates that appearances can be deceiving. Bluebeard's wealth and status hid his true evil nature, teaching us to judge people by their character rather than their possessions or position. Thank you for joining us for today's EngloStories. If you found Bluebeard's tale exciting, please like this video and share it with friends who are learning English. What would you have done in the wife's situation? Let us know in the comments below. Follow EngloStories as we upload a story daily so that you can look forward to our next video. Until tomorrow, keep reading, keep listening, and keep improving your English.